Carlo Acutis was born in London in 1991, but his life's mission would unfold under the Italian sun, where his family settled when he was still in diapers. To most people, he was an ordinary child. He played soccer, collected Pokemon cards, devoured pizza, and lost track of time in front of his computer screen. But behind that boyish charm was a soul awakening to a deeper call, one that not even his parents could explain. His mother, Antonia, once described young Carlo as born with a sense of the sacred. This wasn't just a poetic phrase. By the time he was 3, Carlo would enter churches and freeze, mesmerized, not by stained glass or the smell of candles, but by the images of the Virgin Mary. He would stand silently before her paintings, sometimes for an hour, unmoving, unblinking. Grown men passed by without noticing, but this toddler, this child of 3, was transfixed. His little eyes looked at Mary as if she were not just a painting but a presence. "Mama," he once whispered, tugging at her sleeve. "Why does nobody talk to her?" His mother, at that time, wasn't particularly religious. In fact, she rarely attended Massachusetts. The family wasn't rebellious, just indifferent. But her son's question shook her, because deep down, she knew something mysterious was happening, a hunger that couldn't be explained. By the time he was 4, Carlo wasn't asking for toys or bedtime stories. He was asking to go to daily mass, every day, even during summer vacation, even on school days, even when he was sick. "It wasn't normal," his mother would later say. "I didn't understand where it was coming from. We never taught him these things." But Carlo's hunger wasn't coming from something he had been taught. It was coming from something or someone calling him. A few months later, he began asking questions no child his age should even think about. Why do people ignore Jesus in the Eucharist? Why do people go to church, but never speak to him? Why do people act like God doesn't exist? His mother was stunned. These were not recited words. This was not mimicry. It was authentic, deep, piercing. Something supernatural was stirring in this young boy. The first whisper from heaven. Carlo's relationship with the Virgin Mary didn't begin with fire or visions. It began with silence, the kind of silence that listens. It was in that quiet that Mary began to speak. He was still just a child when it began. No one knows the exact moment. Perhaps not even Carlo himself. There were no thunderclaps, no apparitions of light, just a quiet whisper in the soul. A mother's voice. Mary didn't appear in ways the world could see, but she was there, present, guiding, comforting. She became to Carlo not a distant queen in blue robes, but a mother, his mother, and she didn't speak to impress him. She spoke to prepare him. Carlo's secret. For years, Carlo told no one, not even his mother, not his priest, not his closest friends, because Mary had asked him to keep their conversations sacred. "These are not for the world, not yet," she told him. "You must grow. You must listen. You must be formed in love." And Carlo listened. The mystery of the Eucharist. One day, during adoration, Mary told him something that would become the cornerstone of his life. "The Eucharist, Carlo, is your highway to heaven. If you stay close to Jesus in the Eucharist, you will never lose your way." That sentence would shape everything. From that moment, Carlo centered his entire existence on the Holy Eucharist. Daily Massachusetts Eucharistic adoration. Long silent hours kneeling in front of the tabernacle. Not out of duty but love. And Mary continued to teach him. She explained to him, in terms he could understand, the miracle of transubstantiation. That the host, once consecrated, was no longer bread. It was Jesus himself, body, blood, soul, and divinity. To Carlo, this was not metaphor. This was not theory. This was reality. And he began to burn with one desire, that the world would know it too. The mission begins. As he grew older, Carlo's conversations with the Virgin Mary took on a new urgency. Mary wasn't just guiding him for his own sake. She was preparing him for a mission. "Tell them, Carlo," she urged him one evening. "Tell them what I've told you. Tell them what I've shown you. Show the world what they have forgotten." What had they forgotten? the reality of the Eucharist, the presence of Jesus in the tabernacle, the gentle cry of heaven to return. And so, Carlo began building something the world had never seen before: God, technology, and a teenage saint. Most teenagers in the early 2000s were just discovering email and social media. But Carlo was teaching himself coding, web design, programming languages. His friends thought it was a hobby, but for Carlo it was a weapon of evangelization. "The internet is a gift," he once said, "but people don't use it to talk about Jesus. I want to change that." With Mary's help, literally, through their ongoing conversations, Carlo began documenting every approved Eucharistic miracle in church history. He built an entire website cataloging them by country, century, and type of miracle. Events where consecrated hosts bled, where human flesh appeared, where scientific studies confirmed divine phenomena. Carlo worked on it at night, after school, after prayer. Mary guided him every step of the way. "Focus on this one," she would whisper. "Translate this for the children in Brazil. Make this one simple enough for teens in America." And he did. By the age of 14, he had built the world's largest digital archive of Eucharistic miracles, a masterpiece of faith and technology. And he gave it all away for free. A vision in the night. One night, Carlo had a dream. In it, he saw thousands of people walking toward a bright light. Some were laughing. Some were weeping. Others were turning back. Mary stood beside him and said, "Do you see, Carlo? This is the world. Some walk toward Jesus. Others reject him. You must help them find the way." Carlo woke up in tears. The next day he fasted. He went to confession. And he added 3 more miracles to the website. "The Eucharist is my road to heaven." By the time he was 15, Carlo was telling his friends, "I'm preparing for something. I don't know what, but I know my time here is short, and I want to be ready." Those around him were confused. He looked healthy. He had no illness. But Mary had told him, "You won't be here long." And Carlo wasn't afraid. "I want to die as a saint," he once told his mother. "Not because I'm holy, but because I stayed close to Jesus." His work was almost done. His heart was ready. But the world had no idea that the boy behind the computer, the teenager who walked to daily mass, was already preparing for eternity. "Mary said the Eucharist was my highway to heaven," he wrote in his journal. "And I believe her. I really do." Little did he know, his highway was about to take a sudden turn. He built a digital sanctuary for the miracles of God. But even as the world was just beginning to notice him, heaven was already calling him home. And the Virgin Mary was preparing him for the most sacred journey of all. It was September 2006 when Carlo first felt the fatigue. At first, it was nothing, a bit of dizziness, a little weakness during soccer. But it didn't go away. His mother brought him in for tests, then more tests, then a final diagnosis that shattered the air like glass. Acute leukemia. Fast-moving, aggressive, terminal. The doctors said it plainly. He had only days left to live. But Carlo didn't flinch. He didn't cry. He didn't panic. He didn't even seem surprised. Because the Virgin Mary had already prepared him. "Mama, Mary is here." During his final days, Carlo's hospital room became a sanctuary. Nurses and doctors walked in and felt something. Peace, light, the stillness of something divine. His mother Antonia would enter and sometimes find him talking, eyes slightly upward, lips moving silently. "Who are you speaking to?" she once asked. Carlo smiled gently and replied, "Mary. She's here. She's telling me everything." Mary was explaining his suffering. She was showing him the fruit his pain would bear. And more than anything, she was comforting him like a true mother. The last conversation. During one of those sacred conversations, Mary told him, "You will not grow old, but your life will touch millions. You will show the world that holiness is possible, even in jeans and sneakers." She showed him visions, young people returning to the church, Eucharistic adoration filling chapels, miracles, healings, conversions, all through him, through his ordinary brief life. He looked up at his mother from the hospital bed one morning and said, "Mama, I'm going to heaven soon, but I'm happy, because I never wasted a minute on things that don't please God." Antonia broke into tears, but Carlo did not. He was ready. October 12th, a date from heaven. On the morning of October 12th, 2006, the world lost a teenage boy, but heaven gained a warrior of love. What most people don't realize is this: October 12th is the feast of Our Lady of the Apparition. The Virgin Mary didn't just guide Carlo in life. She received him in death, on her feast day. That's not coincidence. That's providence. He passed peacefully, holding a rosary in one hand and a smile on his face. A miraculous ripple begins. Within weeks of Carlo's death, stories began pouring in. Children having dreams of him, teens feeling a new passion for the Eucharist, parents returning to Mass after years away. But one story changed everything. Campo Grande, Brazil, 2013. A 6-year-old boy named Matthias Vieira was born with a rare pancreatic defect. He couldn't digest food normally. His life was restricted, painful, and filled with surgeries. Doctors had given up hope. His mother, desperate and broken, began praying to someone she had never heard of before, Carlo Acutis. A priest had mentioned his name. She looked him up, saw his smile, saw his story, and she began begging for his help. Then one night, little Matthias had a dream. In the dream, a young man appeared to him, wearing sneakers and jeans, glowing with gentle light. "You will be healed," he said. "Tell your mother to pray to Carlo." The next morning, Matthias told his mother. She showed him pictures of saints. When he saw Carlo's photo, he gasped and pointed. "That's him. That's the one in my dream." Within days, Matthias was eating, running, laughing. Doctors ran tests, everything was normal. Completely healed. No explanation. The Vatican investigated. And in 2020, Pope Francis approved the miracle. The healing of Matthias became the official miracle needed for Carlo's beatification. But there was more. Matthias's mother later revealed something that stunned investigators. "Every time I prayed to Carlo," she said, "I felt a woman near me, presence. She gave me peace like a mother. I believe it was the Virgin Mary." Mary had not only guided Carlo in life, she was still guiding his intercession in heaven. Pilgrims begin to arrive. Carlo's body was exhumed and placed in a glass tomb at the Sanctuary of the Renunciation in Assisi, Italy, a place deeply connected to Saint Francis, Carlo's favorite saint. Pilgrims began to arrive, first in hundreds, then in thousands. They didn't come just for curiosity. They came because they felt something. Many who knelt beside his tomb reported a presence of Mary, sudden healings, return of peace after years of inner torment. Young people especially felt drawn. They looked at Carlo and saw themselves. Awkward, tech-loving, distracted, ordinary. But they also saw holiness. They saw possibility. They saw what Mary wanted them to see. That sainthood is not for the few, but for the faithful. A new kind of saint. In a world where saints often feel distant, Carlo feels close. He wore jeans. He played PlayStation. He had a dog named Tommy. He loved Nutella. But he also loved Jesus deeply, especially in the Eucharist, especially through Mary. And he built a bridge for us all, from the screen to the sanctuary, from technology to theology, from earth to heaven. Mary didn't choose him because he was extraordinary. She chose him because he said yes. Mary's digital disciple. Let this sink in. The Mother of God used a teenage boy to bring the digital world back to the altar. That's the genius of heaven. While others used the internet for noise and distraction, Carlo turned it into a cathedral. Mary gave him a mission. He gave her his heart. And the result? Millions have seen his website, translated into over 20 languages, used in classrooms, retreats, homilies, seminary lectures. All of it started in his bedroom, with Mary, whispering, guiding. What's happening now? The Catholic Church is currently reviewing more miracles attributed to his intercession. Many believe Carlo will be canonized soon, becoming one of the youngest saints in church history. But for those who already love him, he's a saint now. Not just because of miracles, but because of his yes. What Mary taught him and us. Let's reflect on what Mary showed Carlo. And what she's showing us. The Eucharist is real. More real than your fears. More real than your doubts. Heaven is near. Not far. Not hidden. Sainthood is possible. Even with a smartphone. Even with a messy past. Technology is not the enemy. It's the tool. It just needs the right hands. Mary saw that in Carlo. Does she see it in you? Carlo used to say that being close to Jesus was like being on a journey to heaven. The narrator says, and Mary was his compass. But what if that same compass is being offered to you right now? You don't need to be perfect. You don't need visions or voices. You just need to say yes, just like Carlo did. What began with a child staring at a statue ended with millions kneeling in prayer. Through one teenager, the Virgin Mary whispered to the modern world that heaven is closer than we think, and that sainthood is not for the perfect, but for the willing. Part 3. Mary's message to the world through Carlo Acutis. Scene, Assisi, Italy. Pilgrims line up outside a chapel. Inside, the body of Carlo Acutis lies in a glass tomb. A mother weeps beside it, holding her child. The world calls him Blessed Carlo Acutis, but to those who've encountered his story, his miracles, his legacy, he's something more. He is proof. Proof that holiness is possible. Proof that the Virgin Mary still walks with us. Proof that even in a digital, distracted, doubting world, heaven still breaks through. Mary's silent revolution. Mary did not choose Carlo to be a preacher. She didn't ask him to become a priest or a monk. She asked him to become fully himself and fully hers, and that, in a world obsessed with being someone else, is revolutionary. She entrusted him with a mission that echoes louder every day. Tell them my son is real. Tell them he waits in the Eucharist. Tell them that heaven is not far. The website that became a miracle. Carlo's Eucharistic Miracles website, first built quietly in his bedroom, is now hosted on Vatican servers and translated into over 20 languages. It's not just a database. It's a sanctuary. Each documented miracle is a doorway for someone to re-encounter the living Christ. From Argentina to India, Brazil to Poland, young people have rediscovered the faith because of Carlo's work. And Mary? She guided every line of code. When heaven invades ordinary life, Carlo's story is not about visions. It's about obedience. It's not about mysticism. It's about faithfulness. It's not about being extraordinary. It's about letting God be extraordinary through you. And Mary is calling more Carlos today, right now, in 2025. Maybe you. Mary's message to modern Catholics. So what does this mean, really? It means Mary is not a myth. She's not a fairy tale. She's not locked in the pages of the Gospel or the walls of old churches. She is active. She is present. She is searching for hearts to guide. She found one in Carlo. She's looking for others now. Holiness in the digital age. Carlo used coding. What will you use? Your voice? Your art? Your parenting? Your music? Your business? Mary didn't ask Carlo to change his personality. She asked him to surrender it. What God gave you, she told him, He wants to bless others through. Carlo surrendered his gifts, and they became miracles. So the question for you isn't, can I be holy? It's, will I give God permission to make me holy? Mary's 3 invitations through Carlo. Let's summarize what Mary is asking through Carlo Acutis, her digital apostle. 1. Return to the Eucharist. The Eucharist is my highway to heaven, Carlo said. Mary showed him that Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament is not a symbol, but a person. The same person who walked the streets of Galilee walks into your soul every time you receive him. You don't need to wait for signs. He is already waiting in the tabernacle. 2. Use your ordinary life for God. Carlo's sainthood wasn't built in cathedrals. It was forged in classrooms, sidewalks, keyboards, and bedrooms. Holiness is not a break from life. It is the deepest living of life. 3. Listen for Mary's voice. Carlo heard her because he made time for silence. In the noise of YouTube, Instagram, Netflix, and endless scrolling, Will you stop to listen? Because she's still speaking. Maybe through this video. A generation called by name. Carlo's life is a call to this generation. A generation raised on screens. Tired of scandals. Suspicious of tradition. Hungry for authenticity. And Mary's answer? A teenage boy in sneakers. Personal encounters still happen. Thousands have now reported moments of healing, comfort, and clarity while praying at Carlo's tomb. Not just physical healings, but interior awakenings. One teenage girl in Mexico said she heard Carlo's voice during adoration whisper, "He's really there. Don't be afraid to believe it." She began going to daily mass. A young man in Italy, addicted to pornography, was about to give up. He watched a documentary on Carlo and fell to his knees in tears. Now he teaches catechism. A couple in Spain, unable to conceive, began a novena to Carlo. Months later, their son was born, named Carlo. These are not legends. These are ordinary people experiencing extraordinary grace. The Vatican continues to investigate Carlo's second miracle, the one required for sainthood. Many believe it's already happened. It's just a matter of time. When canonized, Saint Carlo Acutis will become a patron of teenagers, programmers, internet users, Eucharistic devotion, modern evangelization. But titles aren't what matter. What matters is what Mary is doing through him, and what she wants to do through you. The final message of Mary to the world through Carlo. Let's pause. Take a deep breath. Now hear this, as if it's being spoken into your soul. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be a mystic. You just have to say yes. Come to my Son in the Eucharist. Come with your pain. Come with your questions. I will walk with you, just like I walked with Carlo. She is the same mother who appeared in Fatima, Lourdes, Guadalupe, and she is the same mother appearing now, in hearts, in prayer, in silence. If she could speak to a tech-obsessed teenager, she can speak to you. Final reflections. Carlo's story leaves us with choices. Will I begin attending Mass more regularly? Will I visit Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament? Will I fast from distraction long enough to hear heaven's voice? Will I use my talents for the gospel? Will I ask Mary to be my mother and really mean it? You don't have to do everything at once. Start with one yes. Carlo did. His life was short, his impact eternal. The Virgin Mary guided him, and through him is guiding the world. He is not just a blessed. He is a blueprint, and Mary is holding out that same invitation to you. If you've been moved by the story of Carlo Acutis, don't let it stop here. Go to adoration. Pray the rosary today. Ask Mary to reveal your mission. Drop a comment below. What part of Carlo's story touched your heart the most? Have you ever felt Mary's presence in your life? Like this video. Subscribe to our channel for more real Catholic stories. Share this with a friend, someone who needs to remember that heaven is not far. Final blessing. Blessed Carlo Acutis, pray for us, that we may walk the ordinary roads of life with extraordinary love.